You also have a goal of 15% profit margins by 2020. After we saw the numbers today, do you still feel confident about that?
Well, I think the third quarter is showing that we are definitely moving in the right direction. We added 2 percentage points return on sales versus last year. So we're now at a 12.1, 12.2, depending on the businesses. So I think we took a big step. Now, granted, this will not be linear. Paints and coatings is a seasonable business. But I think on the medium term, and definitely for 2020, we feel much more encouraged to getting to those targets, specifically because the third quarter has had a significant amount of headwinds that we were able to overcome and deliver a stronger result than last year.
Thierry, it's Naira in London. Great to speak to you. Thanks so much for joining us. Talk to me a little bit more about your efforts to lower costs. How are you going to achieve that?
Well, when we embarked on the 15 by 20 strategy, 15% return on sales by 2020, we laid out what we call the bridge from the 2017 results to 2020. It had a number of elements in there, including cost optimization plans. We announced in October last year the first step, as we called it, of that fit-for-purpose organization, 110 million euros. We've delivered on that in full. 35 million euros hits our bottom line in the third quarter, which means that we are really on track to deliver what we promised. The second step, we just announced a 200 million run rate savings for 2020. 240 in 2021. That in fact is the second step that we now announce. As we have defined it a bit more how that's going to go, I think we felt that it was appropriate to announce it. Now this is going to be rolled out over the next 18 months as they get ready, as we talk to the social partners in the local organizations. So it is in fact implementing, as we've been doing over the last year, implementing each of the promises we made to get to 15 by 20.
The cost of raw materials was up 108 million euros during the quarter, Thierry, and you expect that to increase at a slower rate for the rest of the year. What are the biggest inputs? What are the commodities driving those cost increases that you clearly can't control yourself?
Yep. Well, there's a number of categories, of course, in our procurement, but the big ones are typically pigments, including TiO2. It's resins and solvents. Those are kind of the three big product categories. If you really look at those categories, we believe that the pigments and TiO2 has kind of reached its peak. We don't expect that to come tumbling down, but I think that's going to flatten out and maybe erode a little bit. So that's not the biggest worry. And with our cost effort, I think our pricing effort, we've been able to offset that. What we do see, resins and solvents, which are linked to oil prices, not one for one, because there's a lot of supply demand in the middle, but we still see that edging up slightly. So our estimation was that we were going to have about a 300 million euro impact in our portfolio in 2018, additional over what we had as an impact, similar impact in 2017. We do believe we're going to be not only at the far end of that estimate we had, but we're going to be slightly over. We do see it by reaching kind of a cruising altitude, hence that our pricing effort that we started early in the year is very welcome, and in fact is keeping Akzo Nobel healthy and ahead of last year. But it's been a draconian effort from our organization to get the pricing up, to get that headwind under control.
Thierry, can I ask you about acquisitions? Any plans for acquisitions after the deal was completed to sell off the chemicals business?
Good question, and in fact, for some reason, the paints market seems to be everybody speculating on who's going to move in with whom. There was a lot of activity in 2017. I would say we probably, as an industry, has brought it upon ourselves that everybody keeps speculating. For us, I think we've been increasingly clear that it was our 15 by 20, what we call our self-help plan, and getting our business not only being a world leader in paints and coatings, but also having the entitlement performance that that goes along with it, that is really taking up the bandwidth of my organization, my management team, and myself. So right now it's an either or. So either we would abandon that and go for a big acquisition or vice versa. I think we want to do our own minding our own business in the literal sense right now. However, though, there's also bolt-on acquisitions where Akzo Nobel it continues to be very active. In the third quarter, we have done now the acquisition of Xylacell in Spain as a bolt-on acquisition, a leader in wood and metal coatings in Spain. We did Faber in Romania, the #1 in decorative paint. So those bolt-ons we're very interested in. For right now, I think we want to look really at being a focused paints and coatings company that Akzo Nobel is, and bring it really performance-wise to where it should be, and being one of the strong leaders. Doesn't mean we're blind for all the activities and all the speculation outside of us, but right now that's actually kind of secondary in our thoughts.
I wonder about your pricing power, Thierry. How easily do you raise prices in for example, in the U.S. or in Europe, with inflation already starting to be a topic that people are discussing and concerned about?
Yeah, well, I think getting prices up is always, in any industry, it's always difficult, and it's always a bit of an emotional touch point with customers, understandably. I would say for our mainstream products, I think we do have pricing power. It's also justified that we try to offset raw material costs, so it is pretty well documented on why we do this, so that creates a different dialogue with our partners out there. Having said that, it's never an easy way to do it. And in fact, what we've done in our company, it's also looking at the mix. We did lose volume in the third quarter, but if you do the analysis, the bigger part is the volume of auxiliary products like putties on walls, the economy lines in places like China, resins, opportunistic resin sales that we were doing out there. Big volumes, but that frankly we're not making any margin. So the volume drop is related to that. We seem to be holding pretty much our own, despite the 6%, 7% increases we are doing, which is pretty much. We seem to be holding our own in our categories, our real paints and coatings categories.
Thierry, I'm going to be like a dog with a bone with the M&A issue, but I want to know whether you've had any contact with your US rival Axalta to combine the two companies.
Yeah, well, we love dogs. I mean, Dulux dog is actually one of our big icons, so there's nothing wrong with being a dog with a bone. Well, in the industry, of course, we have contacts around it, but as I said, I mean, there's always investors, there's analysts, everybody comes with a great idea on how to do it. Again, we're not blind to that, but right now there is no active dialogue on that whatsoever. And that's why we really are focused on doing our own work right now. Who knows what happens in the next months, the next quarters, etc. But right now, for us, it would have to be a really great opportunity at a good valuation point to throw us off what we're doing right now, which is a 15 by 20.
I wonder, can I ask about PPG? Have they come back? Do you see any suitors sort of still circling around, Thierry, after the chemical sale?
Well, as in an industry, everybody talks to everybody sometimes at different occasions, but not really. I think we've been pretty clear that right now, I mean, of course, if we can't stop anybody coming with a bid. No company can stop anybody coming with a bid. But right now, I think we made it abundantly clear also with the new board that we are on a track, we're delivering. And as we deliver, I think also our key investors build confidence in our own plan and see our own plan as creating quite a lot of value for the time being. So there is very little going on in the background except us pushing costs and pricing and making Akzo Nobel the leader that it deserves to be.